Today we're going to be talking about what does kiln mean when you buy a kiln dried board and what is happening inside of the metal box or the kiln. So when you're selecting your timber for the kiln, it is important that you're selecting timber that is the same species and the same thickness. So when it's in this kiln cycle, you're setting it on that program for that particular species and that particular thickness. Each timber species have different cycles. Some you can pair up. So this is my scheduling sheet or cycle sheet that I use. So this grid here, which is for ash, beech and chestnut, it recommends you can kiln this together. And then what's happening, different moisture contents throughout the stage, how far, how much you need to raise the heat, lower the humidity and vice versa, so that you're getting the good quality. Because if you're kilning, say, 30mm birch with 80mm oak, those are two very different cycles you need to do, and you get a very different quality of timber if you kiln them both in the same cycle, so you get more defect. Because we've only got one mill, I do mix up what timbers I put in, but I do research a lot what thickness and what species can go in with what, so we're not getting those defects. The reason I do that is because it's just one kiln, and it does take those 5 weeks, and we've got a shop we're supplying to, and we've also got orders for clients we're supplying to. We need a selection of timber coming out. If we just put in 50mm beech into this kiln cycle, and that's all we've got, that's a lot of customers that we're going to lose through that. So it is playing a bit of a risky game, and if you have a kiln and you're doing that, I would recommend really stick to those thicknesses and those species. But we're doing that, and I've had many years in doing this as well, so I am doing it with confidence, shall we say. When you're loading up your timber for the kiln, it's important, like with stacking, you're getting your weight dispersal through all the stickers and bearers. Our pack size we put into the kiln is dependent obviously on the size of the kiln. Ours is just over 5.2 meters long, and we're limited by the size of the door to what we can get in there. You want to maximize the amount of stock you're going to put in, because once you shut that door, that cycle takes to 4 to 6 weeks. So you really want to maximize the amount of stock you get back out of it at the end. That's why we've moved to packing our timber into square packs, not so much balls. So it is, again, shape of the door really as it goes in. When you're stacking it, you also want to make sure there's not too many gaps. Most important gaps you want are your sticker gaps. So when you've got the fans going on and it's blasting all the heat around and humidity, it's going through the stack, through the boards, drying them evenly. If you have big voids, like where your bearers are, and it forces you there more, then these boards will dry off quicker or to a lower moisture content than what actually these lower boards would be. That's why I don't use big bearers like this. I use bearers that are the very minimum we can go to the width or thickness of the forks that go in. And then what I'll also do, if there are big gaps, I'll go around with either wrapping or boards and basically block up those gaps to really focus that airflow going through your stickers. Quite a lot of things can go badly if you stack your timber wrong when it's going to the kiln. One of the big ones is no support. So if you had a board that was hanging over, so over 500mm of unsupported timber when it's in the kiln, it will droop. If that's a whole pack that's unsupported, you'll get that whole movement through those boards. And the other thing that can be really badly is no weight on the top. We've got big cement blocks that we put on top of our packs to push down the whole time. You may be using straps like these, but they won't work once in the kiln, because as that timber is drying, it's shrinking. So like this band here was tight when this timber was first cut 2 years ago. It's dried a bit through the air process. You see it's nice and loose now. And once it's gone through the kiln, it'll be even looser. So that pressure is gone. So having those weights on top is pushing down the whole time. And I'll also stop is your top boards, especially like oak, which moves a lot in the kiln. It'll stop a lot of movement coming through that top board because there's no weight on top of it. If he wants to push up as it moves, nothing's stopping that. And so then you get a lot of wasted material at the end of your kilning cycle. A lot of people believe that in the kilning process, it's like an oven and it's just heat. It's very much not the case. The reason we kiln timber is to bring that moist content all the way down to, for internal use, you're looking at between 9% and 13% really. That's what carpenters want. The reason we do that is because our homes have changed. If you go back just like 100 years, carpenters want air-dry timber. And so at that point, the moist content is, high teens, low 20s. Our homes were very different then. There was good insulation, no central heating, and so the moisture content in our homes were much higher. Now we've got far better insulated homes, hotter homes, drier homes. So now our timber needs to be drier as well. Now if we put it in here and just turn it on like an oven with lots of heat, you'll get what's called case drying. And that's where the outside of the timber loses all its moisture. But in losing that moisture, it closes off its cells and then traps the moisture inside of it. And so there'll still be moisture in there, meaning it will still move quite a lot when it goes into the home. So you don't want that. And also with that, you'll get more defects. You'll get something called surface checking, or more cracks, more movement. It's what shocks the timber as you get a lot of defects. So when it comes in here, that first, say, week of the cycle is where you're kind of conditioning it in here, and you're raising up the humidity. So you're high humidity, quite low heat, and you're kind of soaking the timber, getting it acclimatized to this climate. Again, it's all slow. If you do anything too sudden, you'll shock the timber and get a lot of defects. And then as that cycle goes, you're slowly lowering that humidity, slowly rising that heat, until eventually you're more heat than humidity. At that point, the center of the timber is dry, and you're removing that moisture out from the heart to the outer surfaces. And then once you've got it down to a nice lower moisture content in the timber, so like I said, you're looking to get quite low, probably a 9 or 8%. You then do something with conditioning it, where you raise up the humidity again, kind of stabilizes it back to its kind of 10% humidity, and you get really nice, stable, seeing the most defects timber that's dry and ready to be used. In here, you've got your dehumidifier. So this is a dehumidifier kiln. There's loads of different types of kilns. We also have here a heat and vent kiln, which you can also use for hardwoods. And we're hoping to soon also get a solar kiln, which takes a far longer process, but it's a lot less harsh on the timber. So this is a dehumidifier drawing out the humidity. It's got some fans in there. It produces a little bit of heat. Up top, we've got 4 big fans pushing that air around. Like I said, it's pushing that heat and humidity through the stack, drying the timber evenly. Also up top here is a small heater. So it's up top already pushing around. We also got this sheet, you might see. This is also, like I said before, to close off the gaps. So once I put the pack in here, I drop this down on top just to make sure you've got all that airflow going through the stack. And then you can't really see it, but at the back there, there's a probe sticking through the wall. And then that's what's telling me what's happening in here from the back panel, where I control everything. And also up top on that side, you've got a big long pipe coming in, which is your steam generator. So that's what's producing a nice hot humidity. And at the back, there's basically a big kettle that will steam this box as it's going. And then we'll also have, through the pack, probes as well, which connects to the back panel as well. So we'll put these probes throughout the timber. So then I can tell what's happening to the timber, its moisture content, without needing to open the door and then change the climate that's happening in here. So when you're loading up your kiln, and you make sure that you've got your stickers in line with your bearers, you've researched what timber's going in and what cycle it needs to be on, is that the right moisture content, and most importantly, you don't rush it. you should get some really nice dry timber out the end.